While we're on the subject of COVID-19 vaccines, India will from next month resume the export of COVID-19 vaccines. The country halted exports in April so that its citizens could get first preference. It has since managed to double its monthly vaccine output. They can now produce nearly 3 billion doses a year. For more on this, Prasad Kunduri, former senior associate editor of the Tribune India, joins me now. Mr. Kunduri, always a pleasure to speak to you. Let's start with the situation in April, which led to the halting of exports. We understand that part of that decision was due to astronomically increased domestic infections, but there have also been reports of botched orders on the part of government. Give us some background there.
Well, good afternoon. What happened, of course, in April was there was a surge in the COVID infections. There was a sudden jump. Almost we had about 400,000 people reporting on a daily basis for a few days. And at that point of time, by April, as you mentioned, India had already supplied some 60 million vaccines to many countries, almost 70 countries across the globe. And also, India was supplying on the Gavi, which is the United Nations program, the COVAX facility. At that point of time, because of the numbers going up, and there was some criticism about the way in which it was being worked out, because they said, why not vaccinate the people who need the most, and why should India, at this point of time, send vaccines abroad? So I think the government immediately put an end to the decision of sending vaccines abroad and started inoculating. And as we speak today, we are almost the dosage received is 820 million people. Of them, almost 230 million have got both the doses of vaccine. Majority of them are using the Covishield, which is the AstraZeneca production, which is happening in the country to the Serum Institute of India. In addition, there is the indigenously produced vaccine. Plus, we are also having the vaccines from Russia, the Sputnik. That's where it is. So I think now the government is very comfortable in terms of the numbers of people vaccinated, the rate of infection as rate of is pretty down. For instance, on Friday, almost the national figures showed only 30,000 people infected from COVID. So the government seems to be in control while it keeps an eye on the research, if at all, at any point of time.
The Serum Institute of India was one of the major manufacturers and distributors of COVID-19 vaccines, especially to developing countries. So that stoppage of the export, while we do completely understand India's decision to put its own citizens' health and well-being first, that decision impacted many developing countries. Have you seen a lashback after that, or backlash after that decision?
No, I would not say it was a backlash at any point of time. But of course, many countries around the world, depending on India, were distressed that the fact that India was not able to supply the vaccines much needed across. But surely everybody appreciated, because India was in a massive wave of the second, which was very brutal. A lot of lives were lost. So the country was battling at a very serious stage. So I think that messaging also went out from the government of India that, look, we are here to help you, but first our own citizens are in distress and we need to control that. And as I mentioned, there was criticism too over the handling of the issues. So I think coupled with that, of course, many countries, even in the neighborhood, were dependent on India. And as I said, we were also part of the Gavi supply chain. So now that the government has decided, for instance, if I can just mention to you, the Indian Prime Minister is currently in the United States. He just spoke an hour ago in the United Nations, where he announced that the fact that India is also now on the verge of getting an mRNA vaccine, which is an advanced version. Also looking for a nasal spray vaccine, which again is the Indian scientists are on the cusp of getting the vaccine out. In addition, both the U.S. President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris appreciated India's decision to restart the exports. So we were in a difficult situation. And in fact, the Prime Minister did mention in the United Nations a while ago that India helped with its limited resources at that point of time to the best of its ability.
Excellent news there that India has managed to get that surge under control, that so many of its own citizens are now vaccinated. Looking at the global picture and exports, when is that return to exports exactly set to happen? We know it does take time to build up capacity of doses.
Well, what we hear is the government of India, the health minister did announce a couple of days ago that by October we'll restart. I not announced the exact date, but they have sufficient stocks to start supplying. In addition, if you remember, there are two more things which will be of interest to people in South Africa. Of course, you know, India and South Africa are working together to get the TRIPS waiver. And this issue was again flagged by Prime Minister Modi to President Biden, who said very early on the U.S. government has taken the decision to support the TRIPS waiver. So that's good news for both of us in terms of international support coming in for the TRIPS waiver. It will take some time, I guess, but then it's a work in progress. The other important issue is India is working with the Quad, as you know, to vaccine supply. And what they've announced is they're going to ramp up the production of vaccines. And by October 22, 1 billion doses is the target to be supplied to people in the Indo-Pacific region. So this is again a very big step. So there are funds coming in from Japan, the technology coming in from America, and of course the Australians are putting the logistics supply chain in place, and India being the manufacturing hub. So all four countries are joining hands to address this issue. I'm sure as we progress, the supply chains will increase, the supplies will increase, and provide succor to the people across the globe.
Well, thank you very much for that update. That was Mr. Prasad Kunduri, former senior associate editor of the Tribune India, with some good news there. COVID set to be with us for a while, so global vaccine distribution is going to be a key issue for many years to come.